Good afternoon. I'll continue with the flow. So, software developers are no longer required. How many feel it's true? This statement is true or false?
False. As an employee, it is always false. As an employee, it is true.
I want to get some confidence because I'm also a software and architect. Okay, so we'll talk about it. My name is Manu. So I've been working with Schneider for almost 15 years. And coming to this conference, I think I remember the first conference in 2012 with Devon. I think the company name was different at that time. And so it's good that they organize this and we can connect. So I recently moved to this role of architect role. So I used to be an engineering manager, but I moved to this role. Primarily, part of my job is to understand the new tools the developer use and what is the impact on companies and how we should embrace them. Right? So this session is mostly my understanding. So this is a little bit of opinionated session. So if you know what is opinion, this is you can interpret it either ways. Okay, so it may not be correct like AI. Okay, I think Rajesh and we had some good sessions on AI, and there was a lot of questions, right? What AI will do, what it will not do. And what I want to start with is to give some baseline or a mental model for you to understand what is happening around. Okay. So you talk about AI. What it starts with the LLM, right? Which is what they call as AI model. Now, if you think about the AI model, you need to understand this is, let's say you ask some question, it gives you the answer. Right? That's what you need to understand from a very basic level. Then you can go through the technology and learn about how to develop such a system. So this is where your data science, all things would come in, right? Now, please remember that area is completely different engineering, different technology to how you use it. This is very distinctive, right? So just to give an example, like let's say you are an electrical engineer, right? So you concept of electricity. So how you will produce electricity, how you will distribute, these are all separate areas instead of how you use it, right? It has no relation. Right? You can use electricity to drive a car, also to cool your equipment, lighting, many things you can use. So this is very important for us to understand, right? So you can always be a consumer of AI, and everybody, all of us can be a consumer of AI. Need not everyone should be a producer of AI. That's what I'm trying to say. So second aspect is AI applications, and we mentioned about agents in the previous session, right? Which is I would say one of the applications of AI. Now, in the first case, when you talk about model, what is important is the capability of the model. That means how accurately it can support you, right? The information accuracy, speed, what is its cost, how much money it takes to develop, things like that. Whereas when it comes to the applications, what is important is that how natively it is integrated. Imagine yourself, you are developing a code, right? So in the code base, you have today some question, right? How to write this unit test. So how easily you can ask the question and get the answer. So this is what the problem statement here, which is very different from the original problem statement in the first topic, right? So this is important to understand. Third is, you can have the best, like somebody who says correct answers every time. You can have the best user experience, but you do not have a social structure, where you can utilize this to a fully, then you will not get benefit out of it, right? So when people ask what would be the impact of AI in coding, we need to think in these three directions, right? That's very important to think. Think of the model, that how much model is capable. Think of the applications, how much it's capable, and also the other thing, right? So, and come to some of the things later. So this is the foundational kind of. Any comments, anybody?
Social awareness. What does it signify?
See, I heard during this deployment, one of the leader and the team was correct, right? So when they were discussing and was saying that, if you use AI, a developer use AI, they lose their skills. How many of you agree with this statement?
Actually, cognitive thinking, yes.
Yeah, somewhat agree.
Right? So we should not use, that was the comment.
No.
Do you agree to that?
No.
We should use, but
Understand.
It should not happen that he will Like I've seen developers of 2 years, 1 year, they're just copying the code from there. And when you ask them what is happening behind, they can't tell you. If you want to ask like how you can correct it now, they can't do it.
So imagine you are running a service company. Okay, I want to build a product. Two companies are bidding. One person is using AI, one person is not using AI. So using AI would be faster, right?
Definitely.
Yes.
So how would you make a decision to use or not?
So there is two aspects. Social impact of the companies, how you are using. Impact of the labor.
So I know that this is something social, right? This has nothing to do with your user experience, nothing to do with your model, right? So what I'm saying is that even though you give the best tools and all that you expect to this thing, people in their own world will make different decisions and not everyone would make their decision.
Yeah.
So if you are planning to deploy, that the good technology might not be the winner, right? It could be something else. So we'll come to some of the questions and what I think. Okay, so how does this interact, right? And this is so you have your IDE or whatever code, and this is a Copilot example, but most tools would work in the same way. So you have your private code, and the job of the tool capability that we right is to understand the context, which are the other files, where it is asking. Then it asks the question to the model, and model returns back the answer and where it gives, right? So this is how you differentiate. Okay, different. So that's why I'm saying this is all segregated. So today, GitHub is owned by Microsoft, and primarily their first service is OpenAI, and they customize this called as OpenAI Codex. This was their model they customized for coding. But today they also support different other models, including Cloud Sonnet. So you can basically choose between the model, but the tool will kind of remain the same. The Cloud Sonnet, previously they didn't have, but now they have released a beta product for their own tool. So let's say they also want to get into the other thing, right? So these will evolve, in a way. But you need to understand this would kind of change, right? And social, this is with us. So how many of you use AI in your daily life? Let's say most of you use. How many of you use code assist tools? Okay, 50%. And is GitHub Copilot most of you? Anybody other than GitHub Copilot?
Cursor,
Cursor.
Cursor.
Okay, so you use other tools. Do you aware of the tools or use in a daily life? How many, which other tools of Copilot use in a daily development workflow? Use which one tool?
So we're evaluating for our teams right now. We're trying to do Windsurf, Codium, and GitHub.
That's okay. That is evaluation. That's why.
So all three at the same time to see
how it is. Yeah, I think we will talk to you so because I'm also in the similar right evaluation. But on a day-to-day life, like as a developer, are you using the tools? Yes. That is only apart from the Copilot. Only GitHub Copilot.
A lot of people have bought Cursor official license, so that is also getting very.
Cursor is getting very popular. I think Codium also is the topic.
Codium is also not.
Yeah, but this also shows the power of the enterprise setting of Microsoft, because I think most of us, maybe 80% uses Copilot. Okay, so so I was doing this research, maybe it's useful for you also. So I found this website, it's called as SWE Arena. So what they do is they do a competition for runners. So you can ask the same question one place, you write the Java program or whatever, and it will give you the output, and they won't tell you which model they have used. So model A, model B. Then you can write it like which A is better, B is better, both true and wrong, right? And then they will publish some chart. So this is essentially to check the model capabilities. So you can play with it if you want to contribute. So again, if I got this slide from this website, so I cannot look too much into it. What I wanted to talk here is to give a distinction between what is called as AI agents and AI copilot. Okay, and why this is very important. When you talk about a copilot, this is like co-developer role, right? Where you are in the driving seat and your copilot is still giving you suggestions, and you can take suggestions or not take suggestions, right? When it comes to agentic mode, this tool, it is much more powerful, right? It can build an application on its own, with few prompts. I don't have a laptop, so but I was able to create an application, and it shows the thought process, and it understands a lot of things. So I asked to create an application to generate drag SDLC faces. That's it. So it understood that SDLC has these many faces and these tools are there in the market. So he's a developer, he's a domain expert, he's everything, right? And it can build, deploy and everything. Then you make some small changes, but here you are not in the driver's seat, right? So you don't have technology choice and things like that. So, so this is just to give an each tools. I mean, this guy is evaluated and they are providing some suggestions, but generally understand this difference is there, right? Next, I want to look at the productivity improvements and potential AI disturbs, right? So again, what is the topic, right? What I want to communicate with you guys. So we have understood there is a lot of powerful, I mean this gives you a lot of power, right? So how do you make a judgment? Because you don't want to use these tools and lose all your cognitive thinking skills and all the things 5 years down the line, right? And you may have somebody, you need team member, how do you get them, right? So this was my thought process for this talk. And so before that, if you want to think in that direction, you need to understand, okay, this AI tool is something or model is something, whatever. And second thing is that, you have a productivity improvement versus a potential step, right? So what are the improvements? So first is obviously speed, you see speed is increased. You can write more unit tests. I have called as better cybersecurity, you can challenge it. When I say better cybersecurity, I means to say not detection, it's actually fix. Because detection using AI is very challenging. I know there's some discussion in the morning, but generally it's very challenging because today detection is much more, they detected lot more and we say mostly 30-40% is false positive, that means it's not actually a problem. So you can just imagine when AI is detecting it would be even more, right? So rather than it's improved. So the thing is, so AI is being used to trash those 100 and tell which is actually correct and fix it. This is the area of research which is now mostly there. Then if you are new, for example, Java, you don't know .NET, is much easier to work. So technology, getting, you are able to faster learn. So that I feel that. Second is that legacy code has always been a challenge. So there are a lot of tools which would help you to understand. Even in Copilot, there are prompts that you can help you understand. Then there are other AI tools which would create diagrams, ER diagrams and things like that. So this is going to be a big advantage for me. And any other things you want to add apart from this thing that in your life you found it very useful when using Copilot?
Get the entire package system along with the screen.
Kickstart is very start, right?
One more thing is like you can't maintain the standard of code. Right? Say for example there are 5 team members in my project. All are contributing their code to the Git. So they used different chat models, or in the same model it used to give different results. So everybody for the same solution they have 5 different models. So next time I cannot make this as a standard. So next time I tell a person create an API. If he refers this, he'll have 5 different models. So
today 5 developers are writing the code. How do you maintain standard?
We in the code review we make sure like the standard is being followed.
So code review is not going away. So number one,
scripts as well. Pre-commit.
Yeah, you can do pre-commit script and all other code quality things, and that's why you come to that. But remember that this is like a support system for you. Okay, so it's just giving you something and you need not kind of change it. But problem would come in the architecture side, and I'll come to that. If it. Okay, so what are the challenges, right? And where we should be more careful with. And I don't know if you understood this, right? In the AI training, they call the word called a hallucination.
Yes.
Right? And remember that AI will never know that you don't know. It's very important to understand, right? This is the difference between, because it will tell you something, okay, even if you don't know. So, if you are a developer who has like 100% trust, you could be you could be guided in the wrong direction. So remember that, right? And imagine that you're walking in this way and you are going quickly, right? You're going very quickly and you are being twisted this direction. You can move that direction also very quickly. It's very important to understand, right? Your momentum, might take you in a very bad direction. It will take you further. So this is something that you do. Another point I think is very important to remember is that this best practice fallacy. We all, from many times we want the best practice, right? And we just want to do best practice. Your architect tells you to do best practice. Everybody does best practice, right? But remember in that case, new fragment would have never been there, right? So you have to, best practices has, which is the yesterday's best practices, has to be merged with the new learning to give the new solutions or appropriate to the business. So how you do that is where your cognitive things and what we have mentioned comes in. So AI, if it is trained again, depending on the model, but assuming that that's trained on things which are working and it is understanding, it will try to replicate what has been taught to you, which is told to be correct, right? So this has been a truth-seeking AI and all this big philosophical topic that is coming, right? So it's applicable to code also. Second, verbose and duplicate code, because so model has a capability we discussed in the morning called as context, right? So it can have certain memory of, okay, this is the code base, but it has limitations. So imagine when you ask whether it will redo from that code or it will do on its own, we don't know, right? Again, you are a new developer, you want, let's say that, you wanted to edit your file versus you want to create a new API, right, for a small change. Because remember that for this guy, it was asked to create something, right, and he could create a altogether new one with a small conditioning difference, like maybe in a different way. So this as a developer you need to understand. Again, if you compare with lack of understanding with this new power of creating, this is going to be a challenge, right? And this is why many people say that software developer jobs are safe. Why? Because there is going to be an explosion of many applications in the coming years. So rather than modifying, people would be much more incentivized to create new one, right? You can go and tell your manager, I created a new application, sir. Why you want new features? Right? So, and then
In 10 minutes.
yeah, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Right? Because anyway you are not there to maintain it, right? That's a difference. So this can also create, what will happen for a long-term business challenge, right? Second, misdiagnosis of problems. That's very interesting. So I read an article which I shared in the last. So when he was trying, the issue was that the memory was not sufficient and the build was failing. Okay, and the application was failing. As a developer, you have a constraint that I have to fix it. But AI, what it did, it changed the memory settings. Right? And imagine you are, let's say, if in agile mode, you are trusting, what would happen, right? End of the day is fixed, and we know that all fixes are not the same, right? So there has to be somebody who need to. Yeah, so this is a very critical thing, right? So I think you guys are now have confidence that our jobs are safe for some years, right?
That kind of hack actually.
Which one?
That kind of hack actually, right? You are.
It's a misdiagnosis, right? So either he could diagnose the existing thing, and maybe it's again depending on how they are trained. So in this particular case, it was like that.
I have a question here.
Yeah.
When you say verbose or duplicate code, can't we fix this with prompt engineering that, when we are actually asking them, we can tell that, write a concise code?
Exactly.
But for a particular context only, you will be able to. After 10, 20 prompt, it will.
Memory of developer.
Yeah.
But you are right.
Start getting it.
See, this is what is going to happen now, right? See, imagine that with framework what happens, right? Spring framework, for example, right? So I was shifting from different framework as a Java without any framework to Spring framework. Imagine somebody make a mistake with Spring framework. What they will tell? You don't know Spring, please learn Spring. Correct or not, right? This is a framework thing. So same way, if this AI becomes very powerful and it proven that it can do, people tell you are the dumb person, not AI is the dumb. AI is the smart, you are just asking correct way. Right? This is the mindset change, that's going to come. And you are right also, there are right and correct in this. So this is what we need to take care as architects.
So you become diplomat also, and with your technical skill.
So just coming, and this is where I kept as a gray zone. Okay. Architecture impact, right? How it would impact application? Developer skill set, right? Will the developer skill set decay over the years? Right? Let's say if the code is generated, am I supposed to learn from that code also? Which will take me another, let's say the code is generated in 10 minutes, but it will take another 30 minutes for me to understand. But will everybody do it, right? And if everybody did not do it, what would happen? Because at the end of the day, software engineering is a team game, it's not an individual game. Another important point is, you have certain developers, then there is a QA, there is a team workflow, right? Then there is a product release, because you are not developing software in isolation, right? At the end of the day, you want somebody to use it, right? You want to get the feedback. So imagine that you can develop software like in a flash, right? What happens to the other people, right? Should we release it, whatever version, and things like that, right? So this we have to think, or at least in our problem context, it's kind of evolving.
And just one more thing, Manu, to add on, right? There's one more thing which I really feel that after the AI code elements have turned up, the industry expectation or the stakeholders, especially the non-tech stakeholders, have gone extremely high. Even in non-tech guys, right? Give me that money, can't you help me do it yourself within 10 minutes and show me the demo? It's amazing. And that is where I really feel sad for developers that, because media has created so much hype, right, on LLMs and all, that even a director, non-techie director, like a people manager director, gives you the whole set of gyan. That this is something which is possible by just putting it prompt. And if I say no, it will take me some days, he says you really don't know how to prompt. And I say you do it yourself and figure out. Right? That does not work the way. Right? So the industry expectation is terribly high. I partly blame it on media, which has actually created a hype.
There's a very fun joke on this that a developer posted that my full-time job now is to code review the code that my director wrote. So that's my entire full-time job. And one of my developers took a dig at me on that. I was like, yes, I know.
So he says, I did 80% work, 20% but the 20% make 80%.
Exactly. It's a very fun time to be alive.
I will tell you even more dangerous things. Okay. So what will happen is, now this template application is very easy to make, right? And a lot of people, and I hope my senior leaders are not listening, I don't know. But so generally, let's say that they have moved either into a domain expert or whatever. So for example, we create electrical application, which is very, it needs a lot of domain knowledge. So for example, we have the breakers. So at which current did the breaker turn off, and this software goes to including nuclear power plant, right? So it's very sensitive and critical. So there are a lot of people who are very much expert in the domain, right? But they don't know coding. So imagine these guys creating applications. This has been the big selling point for many of these. And they will just in the final step of just that one change you have to do, right? So that will come to the engineering team. So how you will take it up, right? And it comes up at the time also, then you look at the code, all the things generated, which stage, right? So this is all going to come, right? And this is where the long-term maintainability is, going to be a big concern, right? So this is a survey done by Stack Overflow, and I think this agrees to this room, whatever view also, that what are the benefits, right? So improving productivity is 81%. So most people feel like it's a productivity improvement. So in your case, how many feel like it's less than 10% productivity improvement? I know it's very difficult to measure, but let's say you are able to do things faster. I think all of us agree. So that, and so writing code and writing unit tests, I think, is the most use case, right? And there was some AI tool that I was demoed as part of my job, which is generating documentation. And I was reading some article that for whom you are generating documentation. Anyway, the LLM is to understand, right? And this is why I feel, in software it will have a very big impact, because think about image generation, video generation, and all this, right? That has been done for humans, but code is for machines to understand, end of the day, right? So you have two ways to play the game. You can either change your models, you can also train at the machine level. Imagine that something you are not able to reach the current Java world, you can change also the Java compiler, you can change even the next level, right? So you have many more layers where the companies can invest. So what will happen, it's difficult, because today what happens, so there is an LLM is there, the base model is there, and it will come to that. So what happens with improved productivity, right? So this is again, I'm just thinking, so it may not be correct. So if you are an individual, I think this is, my friend has told me, you will be asked to do more exploration, right? 10 minutes create an app, because this is what they say in the video, right? And Microsoft, what is it, Ignite event or Google Code event or whatever event, the CEO will demo an application, right? He will type and it created. So somebody from the non-tech background or even tech background, they will create, unless I don't have to maintain it, I am all in, right? Immediately you create, then it comes, okay, what to do, right? I feel that for legacy applications and all this we are already seeing, you will have better code quality because, previously, we had SonarQube detecting a lot of issues. Now with clicks it is able to fix also, right? And you have decent test and test also it is able to generate. So I feel like code quality for the existing code written by humans is going to be really improved. Whether the AI generated code and code quality, again it's a question mark. What are the biggest problem areas, I think, right? Which we have discussed modularity, right? Because how do you design applications is going to be a big challenge. So there could be more architects in the market than the developers, maybe in future. And we have to ask, does this designing it make sense or not? When it makes sense. If you can prompt it, and if your skill is in prompting, right? So what is the point of software architecture and design? Right? So I used to tell jokingly that today you have Java developers, .NET developers, Angular developers. Future you will have Replit developers. And you tell which is the language, like C is the language. You need to know the prompting style and your IDE extension. It will generate C, .NET or whatever, right? So your skill set kind of would be that. Maybe that is the word we are moving.
Recently a job posting about a vibe coder, so they just want AI to generate everything and they don't have any requirements based on what tech stack.
Okay. Wow. And each line they will create a technical debt, which we are going to solve.
So few lines I want to put to satisfy myself. Okay, for meaning at least some years to this.
But you also can mention there are less people.
Yes, it will be less people.
Yeah, obviously.
It will be, when I say less people, and that's what I've come to the other one, in per team it will be less people. So you need to work which is required to do before and now which is going to be reduced. And if people and teams are not able to adjust it, they will be challenged heavily. There is no question about it. So your company, let's say producing 10 products, might now produce 12 products or 13 products. That could kind of happen, right, in a best case scenario. And that is what I want to give a little sense, right? So, so I mean, like I told, in a company for 15 years, so I know the evolution of many systems. So I was working in one of the business, and we had a Java application which was a portal which was globally was used to, in a pre-sales market, there will people come and configure and all, right? And we had, it's a global platform, so we had something called as custom part. That means, let's say in India you are selling, we sell UPS, so batteries would be manufactured by Exide or somebody, right? We don't manufacture batteries, so they need to get the certification. So all these, they had a Lotus Note database that time. And there's a long time they want to create an alternative system. And this low code, no code kind of platforms were quite popular that time, right? So they decided, okay, we'll use this this platform. Okay, I don't remember year, I think 16, 17, around that time. And I remember, so I was architect of this other platform, we have to integrate, so I was part of the workshop. They were designing the new architecture, what would be the API and all. And the CTO of this guy who is selling to that company, Schneider, and they were selling to this department who is building, and he has told me, once this is done, you are next. So he was telling me, once this is completed, I am coming for your application next. Because, we need continuous work, right? And you don't need developers, because it's a low code, no code is sufficient as a platform, right? And now to the tail end of the story, and again move to different units and all, now I'm part of this team. So we also look at overall applications and what is the future and all. So this low code, no code, if you're aware, it was successful, but it was never that successful. We still have all the hundreds of JavaScript framework to name, right? So it never create the kind of user experience it want to create. Performance, hundreds of problems. So not only that my previous application, even though I moved on, that still survives. What has happened is recently there was discussion initiated. So if we can create quickly the applications, the first thing that we want to kill is this low code, no code. people come with very high expectations, marketing and all, right? They need not be kind of succeeded, right? Second is ERP. So if you think about ERPs also solve that similar problem, right? Everybody want to create the warehouse, everybody want to create customer service. Why do you do that, right? You have ERP, then you customize to do it. Now, that also, if you think about it, it didn't really end the software developers or architects. Rather, it created an army of people who will do Salesforce engineers, SAP, and, all you name it, right? And in fact, again, I was in a different workshop when we bought the Salesforce and we integrating, and Salesforce architect was telling that the company, our company, and they have certain limit to which you can customize, right? It has overthrown that limit 2 to 3 times. And they have to discuss more or give us more space because our business is large, So even though you have an ERP, you have to customize so much. So, I mean, all said and done, real businesses needs a lot of flexibility, right? If everybody does the business same way, then the companies themselves don't exist, right? So, third point is, again, I hope you will feel a little bit relaxed after these points. Another very important point is, with respect to code assist tools and LLM, what I realized, see, it's not like we are not the only engineers, right? There are civil engineers, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers. These people also have productivity tools. In fact, one of my previous applications is actually a productivity tool for electrical engineers who design the systems. Right? What is the difference here? Typically, an electrical engineer will generally they don't build productivity tool for themselves. So productivity tool is a software tool. But in the case of us, as software developers, we are building a tool for ourselves. Right? So it's a problem also, it's a solution also. That means somebody needs you to build the tool.
Yes.
Right? So it's not an immediate thing that the tools can be automatically built. So there is a bunch of people who can do everything, right? So you take out these people to do the tool, then that one speed will reduce. So this is important, right? So I feel there is a decent runway to upskill and adjust, and different companies are going to do it in a different way. Few things are very clear. There are going to be now smaller teams. There is no doubt about it, right? Whether there will be more smaller teams versus, I don't know, right? That will see how it works, right? And there is going to be a lot of non-developers doing coding, and somebody else has to review them. Right? And what I call is, so I was been an engineering manager also many years, right? What works is that incentive structure, right? How will you incentivize? So imagine that if you are a group that incentivizes speed versus quality, which is hard to measure, right? The long-term impact, what would happen is going to be the case, right? And we can say architecture has to be maintained and all, but who will kind of make that decision? This is the way to do, it's not the way to do. So this is also going to be very important, right? Any comments?
That's our job, right, to take the decision and show the direction. I don't know if agent can do that in future, that this is the decision you can go, if you could, but don't know actually. Yes.
But the parameters consideration is going to be very tough.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but anybody remember what was the DeepSeek movement they called it? Why was it significant?
10%
Why was it significant?
Because
So you got LLM cost working
And at the same time, it's,
1%.
the cost
it's better than
of setting up a model. So
In less cost.
it's ultimately that, right? So with AI it also is that getting to market will become faster. Because getting to market will become faster, companies will be able to react to business opportunities faster and figure out there is a small business here now, let me scale up this and get more people for this. So that's what low code brought. I mean, it caused a lot of problems to the developer community, but it did some good on the other hand, where people could very quickly do an MVP. Say, oh, there's a business here. That boomed the entire COVID economy, right? Post-COVID economy. People could quickly do certain things. Say, there's a business here, let me quickly go and now start this. Massive funds were put into that, and then engineers got their jobs and whatnot. So, to a certain extent, AI will fuel that until it arrives to a point where computation and the accuracy gets better than humans, which is not too far away, but still a little still some time. Where performance considerations will become no problem because you'll have unlimited computes in terms of quantum computers and whatnot. Till that time, there will always be a person needed to think, how's my performance? I have to consider scale. You may have written a base code, but what happens when this gets hammered by 1 million requests or 1 million transactions? So, till the time there will be, but an engineer's skills, current skills, will be challenged heavily.
So that's what I'm saying. Again, this is a very personalized opinion, like I was saying.
Actually, to add on his point, one of my architects recently asked me, how long did you take Facebook to introduce threads? They've introduced a new platform called Threads, right? So he asked me, I told not sure. So he told when there was a problem on this blue tick in Twitter, many people started looking for an alternative for Twitter. So Facebook thought that of an opportunity, and once they started it, within 1 week they released that product. So that was something unimaginable in the past. Within a week they have deployed such a large scale product which is used by many. It was developed within 1 week. Not only the MVP, it was deployed to production in 1 week.
Yeah, see. So, again, that's correct, my thoughts. Again, if you look at today the civil, electrical, mechanical world, right, with the productivity tool, and kind of what is happening is, see, developers we were very lucky that we could export our work, right, and that is a real value actually if you think about it, right. You are not that special from a civil engineer who kind of designs and follows some certain instructions. And if you look at that world, even you look at, let's say, doctors, right, the difference between a good and a very good or extremely good is very wide. Which is not the case for generally for developers, right? We have a range you can put. I'm talking about in terms of salary. So it might be that there are certain problems which really needs a lot of thinking, and what used to be the big tech, which is called, maybe that is the direction. Okay, so but these are something for you to think.
Manu, what do you mean by the productivity tools? I'm not clear on that.
John?
The productivity tools part. For example, civil, electrical, mechanical. These are hard sciences, right? They're all based on...
CAD is a productivity tool, right?
Okay.
So they can design, right? Imagine a civil engineer without any tool, what you would do? I mean, they were building structures for thousands of years, right? You can still see. So people know. Only thing that is not scalable. See, today you can build. I'll give you a very simple example. You look at the Bangalore metro, right? First phase to build them, it took them 10 years, right? They were building so slow. Why? Because the engineers did not know many things, right? Then they learned they used a lot of reusable things. Okay, bricks you have to do something. They used more advanced technique. Maybe they have more funding. They could employ better people, right? With that experience. Then they decided across India, they decided to build a lot of metros. So with that, what happens? You learn, right? So you could scale things.
Maturity comes.
Maturity comes, you can scale things with the tools. But there also, when you can repeat things, right? There may be, few problems, like useful thing, there's a include junction where they have to merge and, do. This Scarpura maybe is a very different case, right? Because so many lines, where you need to apply more brain. So where tools will not happen, right? So software is going to be the same. So software was always special in terms of an engineering discipline, but it is becoming, because the ability to write code, which was not a commodity, that means you could get anybody to do, is now becoming kind of right. See, when I was a manager, one of my things I did not like was to create job description, because I have to type everything, then everything. Now you look at any job description, you can basically create in minutes, right?
What about performance review? What about performance review?
No, that is performance review was not a big problem for me because I know my team and so it was just not a 1 year event. Okay.
So one question, in terms of just a generic question, that what I see is the top leadership always incentivize fast pace rather than actually the quality. And we as an architect community, that's our job. We are always focused on highly obsessed with quality. Right? For us, pace is what engineering manager really bothers.
Correct.
Right. So and after AI, the conflict between EMs and architects has actually gone up.
Yeah.
Right. And they say that you guys are too much focused about quality, but AI will fix it up, and then if there's a mistake also, it will come up and we'll fix it again. Right?
So you're right. So think about yourself building a home, right? You tell your designer so many things. I should want very thin wall, very thin wall, even more stylish, right? But architect has to decide whether this house will fall or not, right? So that is similar way it's your thought process also.
But the problem is now they are ready to make it fall. Right?
Exactly. Then you want to just try out something and then kind of change. Because in software you can change, right? In other things you can't change.
Then and only they will get more.
It depends on whether you are spending person or you are a service person or whatever.
There is always a state of acceleration.
Yeah. So I think there are a bunch of areas that we should look at, right? This explosion of number of applications, this consistency and high throughput small teams, like I told, right? You have a small team, but there's a very they are able to create applications after applications, right? And maybe the person who's creating applications is no longer there. And maybe need not be there, right? So these are all that we have to see. And does it matter that you use Java or something else, right? So this is also going to be there, right? So your years of skills that you developed in a language, what happens to that, right? So there will be a lot of people who will know only to prompt. Imagine somebody, you are hiring a senior person who has reached that level just by the knowledge of prompt. Right now he has to do something else. So it's a very interesting times, right? If you are in long-term industry, this is going to be a very exciting times, right? It's going to be like watching a Netflix movie now, future, right? So it's going to be,
But still, for them, foundation will not be that strong, right? Because they are using all generated things.
Do you need foundation is the question, right? So this is what
That's how the building
There was somebody who was talking about this, that since LLMs started becoming better, new frameworks and technology started erupting. If you see in the last year or so, nobody has come up with here's a new JavaScript framework. Because he's now focused on I'll build something with the existing ones, because nobody cares about solving that framework problem anymore.
So one thing I am relieved is there is no new JavaScript framework. So as a backend person, every time you look at read, there is something new.
Every few months there is something.
There's people have this microservice, so there is again, I have an application that has like 6-7 tabs, and I see 7-8 code bases. I'm asking people, okay, I'm not an architect. Why you need 8 code bases, please? You don't need this many. Okay, we have web component that is integratable, this is pluggable. So people say modularity, humans have taken it too much into the I have to be really modular, and this anybody can use, but nobody will use because there is no something else, right? So, okay. So again, see, an architect could create some quick app for demos, instead of doing analysis. So I think this is where we have to this, right? So in the past we do a lot of analysis, maybe. Now you don't do any analysis, just show them something which is kind of working, right? Maybe quickly.
I think both will be required.
You need to choose, right? See, thing is, there is a lot of expectation from you. You need to strategize yourself what you need to do, right? And personally, I really like this because with this agile coach, RPA, all these things, what will happen to estimations? So I will leave you with that question. How?
Now they all are doing in hours. The number of days, right? When we used to give it days, they say you have to tell me in hours.
The story points are gone. Like
Product manager only estimate everything.
So we were having a very fun discussion around this. Like what should you do with AI? So there was a kid developer in our team who joked this that the first thing that you should automate is an agile guy. Make the Scrum Master out of it. That's the easiest to automate. It doesn't affect us at all. Let's do this first.
Now there is going to be a lot of these, and I think I put something there, right? It's called as interaction cost. Because now what is an interaction cost? Like two people have to talk. That's also a cost. Now there is an information loss. So imagine a team of 10 people now can be done with 8 or 6. Your interaction cost will drastically come down. That itself is a productivity kind of improvement, right? So that's it. Okay, so I have one more slide. Well, I think this again a summary of whatever we have discussed. See, again, nobody knows, right? But if you look at AI, a bunch of people has a bunch of money. A lot of money is going to the hardware because this is where real, they are develop chips and things like that. Then there is a lot of money going to the model. then I think there is a lot of money going to the customizing model to coding kind of thing. So same thing can be applied to, let's say, your image recognitions in X-ray and your bunch of industries, right? They call it very, what do you call it, very wide technology or something. I forgot the exact word, which can be applied to multiple layers, right? So a lot would say that where the money goes, that means how they use this money to build. Because imagine if you get a lot of money, then you can hire a lot of people, you can build a lot of tools, you can get a lot of feedback, and more important, you can run a lot of programs to marketing programs to convince others, training programs to educate developers to come up to speed. This would eventually, right? Because I remember attending a Microsoft conference a few years back. Because Microsoft, you remember, Azure was behind the game with AWS for many years, right? Now you see they have catch up, right? And one of the reasons was they influenced the developers very well by skilling them, right? So imagine you want to build something, you don't find an AWS person, but you find an Azure person. That also will influence your criteria, right? Because at the end of the day, companies don't want to build apps, right? They want to sell their products or services or whatever, right? So what it makes easier is what is going to happen. So I feel you need to have the psychological safety and obviously try some targeted kind of learning programs, and it can definitely improve the technical market. Okay, so thank you for listening. That's all, and I hope you Thank you.
बहुत अच्छा काम है सब कॉन्फिडेंस
Self confidence के लिए क्या
By the way, all the plants have been made by me. I mean, not me. I have a big plant at home and then I keep propagating. So here we go. Alright, so we break now. Let's try to make this a short.